Hello, this is Jerry Pike, and we're looking at evolution because it's very much a topic amongst the spiritual people of today that we seem to be in a time of evolutionary possibility, whatever that means. And can we try and get a better understanding of what evolution actually is? And as ever, the spirit of this video is to get you thinking about it. And I hope you find this kind of interesting in terms of opening it up to try and get a better grasp on the amazing enigma of evolution. So let's take a look at what evolution is and what makes it different to other kind of changes that occurs in our life. And here's a little initial view about it. The first thing you can say about evolution is that it involves some kind of physical change to the body. And this is how we can distinguish all the many species of life on this planet because they have had some different evolutionary influence in how their bodies work and look. And this is really saying that what we're talking about with evolution is that it's some kind of change upon your DNA. It's not like learning a subject and does that affect your DNA? An evolutionary change turns up in your genetics somehow. And therefore, if we're talking of some sort of evolutionary change in ourselves, it's got to indicate some kind of change at that DNA level. And the third area is that it involves some kind of different behavior at play. And a good place to see that is in the human being, because anthropologists have spent a long time trying to work out when those human characteristics started to appear. And they have tracked it down to things like the appearance of tools 2 million years ago as a sign that we were operating on some different kind of faculty to the rest of nature in the main at that point. And then it went on to the discovery of fire, which no other species was able to do. And then it really took a kind of left turn because they found that we started burying the dead. And what has that got to do with survival of the fittest and responding to life on this planet? It's a different concept entirely, as if something has kind of got into the human psyche and caused them to start to think this way. And it gets stranger still because we start drawing paintings on the side of the wall. And what would have induced us to do that? What external requirement would have caused us to evolve to start painting things on the wall? So it's all a bit mysterious, but this is considered part of the evolutionary development of the human being. So that gives us a little insight to get us going as to what evolution can be distinguished by. But it is not the only way that we change. In fact, change is going on in our lives all the time. And in a sense, evolution seems scarce. You can only know about it from something that happened thousands of years ago. Where is it today? So let's look at how change does occur. And the first way that is all around us and in everything is growth. So we were all once 5 years old and we've all grown older. And the interesting thing is that we didn't have to do anything other than keep ourselves alive in order for that growth to happen. So a key feature about it is that it's automatic. And if you plant a seed in the ground and look after it, it will grow into a flower. It's all just following its internal programming and seems to work very nicely. How that programming got here, we presume, is an act of evolution, but we don't tend to see it. We just see the thing working in operation almost effortlessly. But the area of change that mostly preoccupies the human race is one of development, where this is something that doesn't happen automatically. For example, if you decide to get fit, then you go down the gym, start running, lifting weights, you will get stronger. But if you don't do it, then the muscles won't develop. And for example, you might decide to develop yourself by learning a foreign language. But if you don't try to learn a foreign language, you won't learn it. So development is chosen. And if you don't do it, it doesn't happen. And if you do it, it develops. So that seems to be the two main factors of change in our lives. And the human race in particular is focusing on development, and a lot of the things you see talked about amongst us is how people are developing themselves, from the Olympics to geniuses to people who've done great things in the world, and all that kind of research and discovery as if we're trying to develop ourselves. But where does that place evolution? And what would you say is a word that could characterize the fundamental nature of evolution and how it occurs? So that is the question. So let's start looking at a few things where evolution has had an effect and what that might be saying. So if you look into the animal kingdom, and let's take a kind of classic example, the giraffe, and how on earth did it get such a long neck? And people say, well, it was to eat the leaves at the top of the tree, and those with long necks survived longer, and lo and behold, the giraffe appeared. But really? And, imagine you wanted to reach the apples at the top of a tree, and you decided to make your arm longer, and you got your friends to pull your arm every day, and maybe you succeed. But would it transfer to your children? The fact you had your arm pulled for years to make it longer? I mean, look at these ladies in Burma, and they managed to extend their neck. Amazing. I can't imagine how they do that, but they have succeeded. But the important thing to note is that it's not passed on to their children. Their children are born with normal necks, and they have to go through that same process if they want to become like this lady. So, how on earth did the giraffe manage to not only extend its neck length, but then transfer that to its children? And you get things like the horse, which somehow or other developed into a zebra, which is, you can't even say it's for camouflage reasons. It's almost like the opposite of camouflage. And what on earth would have occurred to make that happen? So these are the kind of thoughts we've got to have, where really evolution is a mysterious subject. And it gets even more mysterious when you come on to the human case, because we start to deal in areas that have no reason whatsoever for being there. And let's start off with one we all know very well, and that's music. Practically everybody loves music. It's been around for thousands of years, and we feel very naturalized to it. In fact, some people are great at composing music, not just listening to music. And yet, you can't find music out in nature. You can find bird song, but you don't find bird music. And yet, we seem to be naturalized to it and love it as well. It seems to have such great potential in a curious kind of way. But how did it get there? What would have instigated it? And that's just one example. I mean, another example is numbers. We see numbers everywhere. Children quickly get the hang of numbers. But if you asked a dog to learn multiplication tables and division, I mean, its brain would hurt. I mean, you wonder if it can even properly conceive of numbers. But we can conceive of numbers, and they seem to be part of how we easily can assess and see the world. But how did that get in? And what enables us to hold that concept of numbers? And then, really strange one in a way is religion. Where did that come from? Because nature doesn't seem to have caused religion in any other animals, but most races of people have had religion and still do today. Three-quarters of the population would claim to be religious. And what has instigated that and made us think that way? And finally, another one very close to our heart, and it's completely strange and mysterious, is humor and laughter. And why is it the human race has got this ability to laugh and see the comedy in things, when no other animal does. A laughing hyena is just making a noise like a laugh. It's not actually laughing. And this is something, again, is we have a love affair with humor. The entertainment industry is massive, and it's all too often to play with that concept of humor and laughing. So, where is the evolutionary need that would have created that? Curious. Got no idea. I've got no idea for either of these four examples, or any of these four examples. So, what is it that would characterize this curious thing called evolution? And we could try words at it. I mean, the spirit of this video is to try and get you thinking about it. So, for example, would you say it's automatic? Doesn't seem automatic, and where's it coming from anyway? What triggers it? Why can't we get to that trigger? Um, and then you've got the scientific view that says it all came about by accident, which to me is like a schoolboy's answer when they don't really know what to say. Oh, it must have been an accident. But what occurs by accident? What is the human race, with all its intelligence, ever created and put together in a finished form by accident? It was hard work and intelligence. And you're going to wonder, every species of animal has a great integrity, has a great deal of finesse in its construction. And you wonder how that came about. So I think that's a bit of a fudge. Now, if we're going to get a bit more gripping, I think we could say genetic engineering. How? Who? And in a way, what this is suggesting is the concept of God, and that God deals in genetic engineering to produce all the forms of life here. But that's a whole other subject. And let's just say it's universal intelligence, somehow yet to be discovered, and that it does operate somehow at the genetic level to cause different forms of life to appear. So the word I'm going to put there, and I'm doing it a little bit provocatively to try and get you thinking about what you would say, and I'm choosing to propose the word granted. So that zebra never worked, through the night to change itself from a horse to a zebra, but somehow it occurred. And we're today talking about living in a time of potentially evolutionary change of ourselves. And we don't know why, we don't know where we got the idea from. We're full of enthusiasm, we're acting like we can develop our muscles and become evolutionarily different, and yet, history would say, well, when has that ever happened? But I think from the idea of the intelligent universe, there is something that has been enabled, as if we're on the verge of some significant shift, not just in having better ideas about saving the planet or getting on with our fellow man, but in terms of perhaps some different faculties, systems, perceptions being at play that we are currently in the process of establishing. So I hope that's got you thinking about it, because you need to find your answer and own views about this. And hopefully, as a human race, we can start to unravel some of this mystery in more realistic ways. And I don't think it's a case of just jumping to our favorite belief system about it. It's finding out what is actually going on where evolution is concerned, because it is a most powerful change mechanism, far greater than development and going down the gym just to have a healthy body for part of your life. It's something that can carry on to the generations that follow. And that's why it's so significant.